folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. You're all going to die tonight. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we're doing another movie review. This is Evil Dead. Released in 2013, directed by Fede Alvarez, who also directed Alien Romulus. And he co-wrote the screenplay as well. The film is also produced by none other than Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell from the original Evil Dead classic back in 1981. I will say what's different about this remake that really stands out for me is how intense it is, how scary it is. This is definitely the scariest film in the franchise, I would say. I was just blown away when I sat down and watched it recently. Recently I got a chance to take it all in, and I was just like, wow, whew, mind-blowing. So the film stars Jane Levy, Jessica Lucas, Shiloh Fernandez, and Lou Taylor Pucci, respectively. And, one thing about this film is it does follow some of the similar beats of the original and the similar plot points. But there's enough new in here that makes it fresh. And it's got a great modern look to it. It's very beautifully directed by Fede Alvarez. He does a great job. And the acting is really solid too. A great group of young actors. Jane Levy, especially as Mia, is just fantastic, you know. And there's no Ash here. There's no Ash Williams. There's no superhero, you know, taking down the demons, you know. There's none of that here. And it's never over the top, you know. It takes the material deadly serious, you know. Now, the original from 1981 is more of a straightforward horror film, but there is some goofiness here and there. But once you get into Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, of course, it gets very campy and over the top, and there's a lot of humor in there, but there's none of that here. This is just straight horror, in your face, terrifying, you know. And it is brutal as hell. It's gory as hell. There's blood everywhere. I wonder how much fake blood they actually use in this film. Buckets and gallons and jugs of blood everywhere. And it's awesome. So if you're worried about blood and gore, you will not be disappointed at all. So the film starts out, we see this girl walking through the woods, you know, in the fog, and it's got the mist in the air, it's got great atmosphere. And then we see her get tackled, and she gets abducted, and next scene you see her tied up in the cellar somewhere, some kind of dungeon or something, and there's this old lady, you know, who likes to kill cats, apparently. Likes to sacrifice cats. I don't know if she's some kind of witch or something. And she's reading these passages from this book, you know. And there's this guy there who I guess is the girl's father. And she's just like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me, Daddy? I just want to go home. Just take me home. And, where's Mom? And then the guy's like, you know what happened. You killed her, you know? And he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you doing this to me? Please stop, Daddy. I will rip your soul apart, Daddy. So like, whoa, wait a minute. And then we see that she is obviously possessed. So the father lights her on fire. And then we see her freaking out and giving the crazy demonic voices, and it's awesome. And then we cut to this young group of 20-somethings, you know, taking a drive out to a secluded area through the forest, where in the middle of nowhere there's this cabin in the woods, you know, which we've seen many times throughout horror films, and Evil Dead, of course, is famous for that. And, you know, it looks a lot like the cabin in the original Evil Dead, for sure. And maybe it could be, you know, some people say that they consider this like a sequel, you know, because it looks like the first couple films could have happened at that time, you know. But anyway, what happens is we meet this young girl, Mia, and apparently she's a drug addict. You know, she's trying to get clean and sober. She's trying to recover. And, you know, her and her brother, David, are, and their friends, you know, they're trying to kind of help her out. You know, they think that taking her out to this secluded place out in the woods might help her, you know, get through her withdrawal, you know, and might help her to relax and help her get clean and get through it all. And, you know, meanwhile, her family and friends are there to, you know, help her through it, you know. So that's what they try, you know. And she makes the pact to never use the drugs again. She takes the bag of heroin or whatever it is and throws it down the well. And she's like, you know, that's it. I will never touch the stuff again. And of course, in the middle of the night, she starts screaming and freaking out, having serious withdrawal symptoms, you know, sweating profusely. And yeah. And then as well, they start looking around the cabin and they discover that there's this bad smell, you know, and it freaks Mia out. She's like, oh, what's wrong with you people? Don't you smell that? And so they find that the smell's coming from underneath this rug on the floor. So they remove the rug and there's that classic, you know, trap door on the floor, you know. They open it up and it leads to the cellar, you know. There's even like blood smeared all over the floor and all over the rug underneath. You're like, well, what the hell happened there? You know. So they open it up and they creep down the stairs. And they go into this room where they find these dead cats hanging up all on the ceiling, nasty. And it looks like something got burned there, you know. And of course we find out that that's where the young girl was killed at the beginning, you know. That's where it all happened. And then they find on the table, there's the Book of the Dead, the Naturam Demanto. I love how they go back to that. And we see that it's all wrapped up in this plastic bag and this barbed wire wrapped around it, you know, like, if anything tells you don't open that, this is it, you know. And of course this dude Eric, you know, decides, you know, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea if I open this and see what's inside. So he takes the barbed wire off and yeah, he starts looking through the book and it says stuff like, do not open this book. Do not read it. Do not write it. Do not say it out loud. And what does he do? He starts reading it out loud, and then you see the forest, you see the fog start to come up in the forest, you start hearing voices as he starts reciting the passages, and you hear the evil being resurrected. He releases the demonic spirit out into the forest. And the evil dead has risen. Love it. Yeah, this guy must be the stupidest idiot in the world. Or in the history of movies. But at any rate, it wouldn't be a movie if he didn't open the book, right? But yeah, obviously the first one to feel the spirit is Mia, of course. So what happens is Mia starts freaking out more and more, and we don't know if it's the spirit possessing her or if it's the, you know, the withdrawal from the drugs and making her insane, you know. But she just decides, you know, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. So she tells them to take her home. You know, I can't take this son anymore. I gotta go home. And they're like, no, we're not taking you home. You need to work through this. You need to defeat your addiction, you know. You need to get sober. You need to see this through. And she's like, come on, enough. And then she's like, David, you take me home, which is her brother, you know. And even he's like, no, maybe it's a good idea if you stay here and try to work through this. And she's just like, I'm out of here. She grabs the keys and drives off into the woods. Of course, it's pouring rain. You can barely see anything. There's fog everywhere, you know. And then she sees someone in the middle of the road, and she just kind of veers off. And that's one thing that's different about this film, too, is you actually kind of see these ghosts, like demons in the woods, but then they disappear, you know. And, but yeah, she sees the demon, and she, like, veers off and crashes into the lake, you know. Okay, now we don't have a car. We can't get out of here. So then she just runs back off into the woods, and then she kind of stumbles, and she falls into a group of vines all stuck together, and she kind of gets wrapped you know, wrapped up in the vines, and the vines start wrapping around her, and then of course we get that class of the rape scene from the original film. So the branches tie her up, you know, and we see that this bundle of twigs kind of swirls around like a snake, and then it, you know, kind of goes up in there, you know, I don't want to say what, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Goes all the way inside her, and then she is possessed. So she is now a deadite, a full-blown deadite. And then she, of course, goes back to the cabin and, you know, starts possessing everybody one by one, including Olivia. And then Olivia attacks Eric and stabs the crap out of him, you know. And then the other girl gets possessed too. Mia actually, like, bites her. And then they throw Mia into the dungeon, you know, and lock the key. And of course, later on, she tries to manipulate them, and she goes back to her normal voice into the "I'll swallow your soul" type stuff. And you know that the demons can do that. They can manipulate you. They can pretend to be a voice of someone you know, or pretend to be normal, go back to their normal voice. And she's like, why'd you lock me up down here? I thought you were trying to help me, you know. And of course the girl falls for it. And they try and inject her with the, you know, tranquilizer, which is what they had been doing throughout the film to kind of calm her down. But, of course, that backfires, and Mia takes a big chunk out of her, bites her, and then she gets possessed as well. Because she gets bitten in the arm, and then the arm starts to get, you know, bloody and blue and nasty and decrepit and decaying, and you think I kind of thought they would get into, like, you know, the Evil Dead 2 kind of thing where Ash cuts his hand off and the hand like flies around, and but it never gets that crazy with it, you know. But she does kind of hack off her arm, you know. It's nasty, bloody as hell. Like I said, the film does not skimp on the blood at all. And you know there's going to be a chainsaw at some point. And man, that scene is brutal. So they decide to look through the book a little more and see what they can do, you know, if there is a way to defeat the demonic spirit. And one thing is, if you bury the demon alive, that ends the curse. So that's what David does. He takes his sister and, you know, kind of takes her out and buries her in the soil outside, and then he digs her back up, and she's cured. You think that she's gonna, like, turn again, like, you know, because that didn't work in Evil Dead 2, you know. When he buried his girlfriend, she came back, you know, as the Deadite, but that didn't happen in this film, because this is a remake. It's a new film. It's not necessarily following what came before it, so in this film it works, and she is cured, and she ends up becoming kind of, I know if there is an Ash in this film, she kind of becomes the hero. She kind of becomes like the final girl. So she goes from being the villain to the final girl, which is kind of interesting. I don't recall ever seeing that before in a film. So that was something new and different. And that's one of the things that makes this film stand out as well. That's the performance of Jane Levy. She's just fantastic. I love her character. Such a great character, so well written. Her dialogue is very well written. It's a great script. And yeah, this film is super brutal, super bloody, super scary. So yeah, I was blown away by this, and I do think it is one of the best remakes in horror history. So if you guys have not seen Evil Dead, the remake from 2013, I highly recommend it. And you guys know that I am not a remake kind of guy. I'm generally against remakes, but when there's something that comes along like this that adds some new flavor to it, adds something different to the lore, I'm okay with it. I'm for it. And I highly recommend Evil Dead from 2013. I give it 2 devil horns way up. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Good evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorcona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorcona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorcona.com. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have. Perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.